Some families look perfect from the outside. Mine was one of them. Every Christmas, we gathered around the same table, smiled for the same photos, and pretended everything was fine. But this year, something was different. The smiles felt forced. The silence lasted too long. And when the accusations finally came, I realized I had been walking on thin ice my entire life. This is the story of the Christmas that tore my family apart. And the moment I discovered that sometimes, the people you trust the most are the ones hiding the biggest secrets. Before we begin this incredible story, do not forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you are listening to this story from. Your support means everything to us. I arrived at my parents' house on Christmas Eve with a sense of relief I had not felt in months. The long driveway was lined with white lights, and the front porch was decorated with wreaths and red ribbons. Everything looked exactly as it had every year since I was a child. My father had even placed the wooden reindeer in the same spot by the front door. I parked my car and took a deep breath. This was supposed to be a good day, a day to forget about work stress, to reconnect with family, to enjoy the warmth of home. I grabbed the bags of gifts from the back seat and walked toward the house. The door opened before I could knock. My mother stood there, wearing her green apron with embroidered snowflakes. She smiled, but it did not quite reach her eyes. "Hello, sweetheart. You made it." Her voice was warm, but something felt off. She hugged me quickly, then stepped aside to let me in. I entered the hallway, and the familiar smell of roasted turkey and cinnamon filled the air. The house was decorated beautifully. Garlands hung from the staircase railing, and the Christmas tree in the living room was covered in ornaments. Everything seemed perfect. Too perfect. I walked into the living room and saw my older brother, Daniel, sitting on the couch with his wife, Rachel. They were talking in low voices, but they stopped the moment they saw me. Daniel stood up and gave me a brief hug. "Hey, Margaret. Good to see you." His tone was polite, but distant. Rachel smiled at me, but her eyes shifted away almost immediately. I set the bags down by the tree and looked around. My younger sister, Emily, was in the kitchen with my mother. She waved at me but did not come over. My father was nowhere to be seen. "Where is Dad?" My mother glanced at Daniel before answering. "He is upstairs. He will be down soon." I nodded and walked toward the kitchen. Emily was slicing vegetables at the counter. She looked up and smiled, but again, it felt forced. "Hey, Maggie. How was the drive?" "It was fine. Traffic was not too bad." She nodded and went back to chopping. I leaned against the counter, trying to read the room. Something was wrong. No one was acting normal. The house felt heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath. "Is everything okay?" Emily paused for a second, then resumed cutting. "Yeah, of course. Why would you ask?" I shrugged. "I do not know. Everyone seems a little quiet." She did not answer. My mother turned from the stove and smiled at me. "We are just getting everything ready for dinner. You know how it is. Go sit down and relax." I wanted to press further, but I decided to let it go. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe they were just tired. I walked back into the living room and sat down in the armchair. By the fireplace, Daniel and Rachel were whispering again. I caught a few words. "Margaret, not now. Wait until later." My stomach tightened. They were talking about me. Before I could say anything, my father came down the stairs. He was dressed in his usual Christmas sweater, but his face looked tired. He smiled when he saw me, but it was strained. "Margaret, good to have you home." He came over and hugged me. His embrace was brief and almost mechanical. I pulled back and looked at him. "Dad, is everything all right?" He hesitated, glancing toward Daniel. Then he cleared his throat. "Everything is fine. Just a long day. Let us enjoy the evening." I nodded, but my unease grew. Something was definitely wrong. Dinner was ready an hour later. We all gathered around the dining table. The turkey sat in the center, surrounded by bowls of mashed potatoes, green beans, cranberry sauce and rolls. It looked like a scene from a holiday magazine, but the tension in the room was impossible to ignore. We sat down. My father said grace. We began passing the dishes around. No one spoke much. The only sounds were forks scraping plates and glasses being set down. I tried to make small talk. "The tree looks beautiful this year, Mom." She smiled. "Thank you, dear. Your father and I spent the whole afternoon on it." Silence again. I glanced at Emily. She was staring at her plate. Daniel was cutting his turkey with deliberate precision. Rachel looked uncomfortable, shifting in her seat every few seconds. Then my father spoke. "So, Margaret, how is work going?" I swallowed a bite of potatoes. "It is good. Busy, but good. We just finished a big project, so things should calm down after the holidays." He nodded, but he did not seem interested. He was just filling the silence. I looked around the table. Everyone was avoiding eye contact with me. The weight of unspoken words pressed down on the room. Then Daniel spoke. "Margaret, I heard you went to see Aunt Linda last month." I froze. My fork hovered in the air. I set it down slowly. "Yes, I did. Why?" He did not answer right away. He glanced at my mother, then at my father. Rachel shifted again. Emily looked down. "Just wondering. You did not mention it to anyone." I frowned. I did not think I had to. I visit Aunt Linda sometimes. Is that a problem? Daniel leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "It is just interesting, especially since she has been saying some things lately." My heart began to race. "What things?" My mother interrupted. "Daniel, not now." But Daniel continued. "Things about the family, about Dad, about money." I stared at him. "What are you talking about?" Rachel touched his arm, trying to stop him, but he shook his head. "She told us you have been asking a lot of questions. About the will, about the inheritance." The room went silent. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. "That is not true." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "So you did not ask her about it?" "I did ask her, but not in the way you are making it sound." She brought it up. She was worried about Dad getting older and wanted to know if he had everything in order. I just listened. Daniel scoffed. "You just listened. What is that supposed to mean?" He leaned forward. "It means you have been circling around this topic for months. You have been acting strange, asking questions, visiting people you never visit. And now, right before Christmas, Aunt Linda tells us you have been pressuring her for information." I could not believe what I was hearing. "I have not pressured anyone. I do not know where you are getting this from." Emily finally spoke, her voice quiet. "Aunt Linda called Mom last week. She said you told her you thought Dad was hiding money." My blood ran cold. "I never said that." My father set his fork down. His expression was hard. "Margaret, if you have concerns about our finances, you should come to me, not go behind my back and ask other people." I felt tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. "I did not go behind your back. I did not say any of those things. Aunt Linda is twisting my words." Daniel shook his head. "Or maybe you are twisting hers." I looked around the table. My mother would not meet my eyes. My father looked disappointed. Emily looked guilty. Rachel looked away. I stood up. "I cannot believe this. You all actually think I am trying to steal from you." No one answered. I felt my hands shaking. I came here to spend Christmas with my family, and instead, I am being accused of something I did not do. Daniel crossed his arms. "Then why did you ask Aunt Linda about the will?" "Because she asked me first. She wanted to know if I thought Dad had updated it. I told her I did not know. That is it. I did not demand anything. I did not scheme. I did not do anything wrong." My mother finally spoke, her voice soft. "Margaret, please sit down. We can talk about this calmly." But I could not sit down. I could not stay in that room. I grabbed my coat from the back of the chair. "I am not staying here to be treated like a criminal." "Margaret, do not leave," my father said, but his voice lacked conviction. I walked toward the door. No one followed me. No one tried to stop me. I stepped outside into the cold night air, my breath visible in the darkness. I got into my car, turned on the engine, and sat there, staring at the house. Inside, through the window, I could see them still sitting at the table. They were talking, probably about me, probably agreeing that I was the problem. I drove away, my mind racing. How had this happened? How had a simple conversation with my aunt turned into a full family accusation? And why did they believe her over me? I spent the night at a hotel. I did not sleep. I kept replaying the dinner in my mind. Every word, every look, every silence. Something was not adding up, and I needed to find out what it was. The next morning, I woke up in the hotel room with a pounding headache. The events of the previous night replayed in my mind like a nightmare I could not escape. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone. No messages, no calls, not a single attempt from anyone in my family to reach out and apologize or even ask if I was okay. I ordered coffee from room service and tried to make sense of what had happened. How had things gone so wrong so quickly? My family had never been perfect, but we had always been close. Or at least, I thought we had been. Now I was questioning everything. I needed to understand where this accusation had come from. Aunt Linda had apparently told my family that I was asking inappropriate questions about money and inheritance, but that was not true. Our conversation had been completely innocent. She had been the one worried about my father's age and whether he had his affairs in order. I had simply listened and reassured her that Dad seemed fine, unless she had misunderstood me, or unless someone had twisted her words. Or worse, unless she had lied on purpose. I decided to call her. I needed to hear her side of the story directly. I picked up my phone and dialed her number. It rang 4 times before she answered. Hello. Her voice sounded cautious, as if she had been expecting my call. Aunt Linda, it is Margaret. There was a pause. Oh, Margaret, how are you, dear? I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice calm. I am confused. I heard you told my parents that I was asking you about money and Dad's will. I need to know what you actually said to them. Another pause. Longer this time. Margaret, I did not mean to cause any trouble. I was just concerned. Concerned about what? We had a normal conversation. You asked me if I thought Dad had updated his will. I said I did not know. That was it. She sighed. I know, dear. But after we talked, I started thinking, and I mentioned it to your mother. I told her I was worried that you seemed very interested in your father's financial situation. My grip on the phone tightened. I was not interested in his financial situation. You brought it up. I was just being polite and listening to you. I understand that now. But at the time, I thought maybe you were worried about something, and I wanted your mother to know, in case there was a problem. So you told her I was asking about money. Aunt Linda hesitated. I may have worded it poorly. I told her. You seemed concerned about whether your father had everything in order. I did not mean to make it sound like you were being greedy or anything like that, but that is exactly how it sounded to them. They think I am trying to get information so I can take advantage of Dad. Margaret, I am so sorry. That was not my intention. I was just trying to help. Help? You made me look like a thief in front of my own family. Her voice became defensive. I did not make you look like anything. I simply shared what we talked about. If your family misunderstood, that is not my fault. I could not believe what I was hearing. You told them I was pressuring you. That is what Daniel said. I never used that word. I said you asked questions. That is all. But why did you even bring it up? Why did you feel the need to go to my mother about a casual conversation we had? She did not answer right. Away. When she finally spoke, her tone was colder. Because I care about this family, and I do not want anyone taking advantage of your father in his older years. Taking advantage? I am his daughter. I have never asked him for anything. Maybe not directly, but people change when money is involved. I hung up. I could not listen to her anymore. My hands were shaking. Aunt Linda had painted me as a manipulator, and she did not even care. Worse, she seemed to believe her own version of events. I sat there for a long time, staring at the phone. I needed to figure out what was really going on. Why had Aunt Linda been so quick to throw me under the bus? Why had my family believed her so easily? And why had no one given me a chance to defend myself? I decided to go back to my parents' house. I needed to talk to them face to face. I needed them to hear my side of the story. Without interruptions or accusations, I got dressed, checked out of the hotel, and drove back. When I arrived, the house was quiet. The Christmas decorations looked less cheerful in the daylight. I knocked on the door. My mother opened it. Her expression was guarded. Margaret, I did not expect you to come back so soon. I need to talk to you and Dad. Please. She hesitated, then stepped aside. I walked in. My father was sitting in the living room, reading the newspaper. He looked up when he saw me but did not smile. Margaret. I sat down across from him. I called Aunt Linda this morning. I wanted to understand what she told you, and I need you both to hear the truth. My mother sat down next to my father. She folded her hands in her lap, waiting. I told them everything. I explained how Aunt Linda had brought up the topic of the will, how I had simply listened, and reassured her, how I had never asked for information. or pressured anyone. I spoke calmly, clearly, trying to make them understand. When I finished, my father leaned back in his chair. "Margaret, I hear what you are saying, but Aunt Linda was very specific. She said you asked her multiple times if I had money set aside that the family did not know about. That is not true. I never asked that. She is either lying or she misremembered." My mother spoke softly. "Why would she lie, Margaret? I do not know, but I am telling you the truth. I have nothing to gain by lying to you." My father shook his head. "This is very troubling. Whether you meant it or not, you have created a situation where people are questioning your intentions. I created this situation. I did not do anything wrong." Aunt Linda twisted my words. "And you all believed her without even asking me first." "Because she has no reason to lie," my father said firmly. "And I do." The room fell silent. My mother looked down at her hands. My father stared at me with a mixture of disappointment and distrust. I felt a lump forming in my throat. "I have spent my whole life trying to be a good daughter. I have never asked you for money. I have never caused problems. And now, because of one conversation that I did not even start, you think I am trying to cheat you." No one responded. I stood up. "Fine. If you want to believe her over me, that is your choice. But I am not going to sit here and be treated like a criminal." I walked toward the door. My mother called after me. "Margaret, please do not leave like this." But I did not stop. I got in my car and drove away again. This time, I did not know where I was going. I just needed to get away from them. I spent the rest of the day driving around thinking. I realized that this was not just about Aunt Linda. This was about years of family dynamics I had never fully understood. My brother Daniel had always been the favorite. He was the successful one, the reliable one. Emily was the baby, the one everyone protected, and I was somewhere in the middle, always trying to prove myself but never quite measuring up. Maybe that was why they believed Aunt Linda so easily. Maybe deep down, they had always suspected I was the weak link, the one who would eventually cause problems. That evening, I went to Emily's apartment. She lived alone in a small place downtown. I knocked on her door, and she opened it cautiously. "Maggie, what are you doing here? I need to talk to you." She hesitated, then let me in. We sat down on her couch. She looked uncomfortable. "Emily, I need you to be honest with me. Do you really think I was trying to manipulate Aunt Linda?" She looked away. "I do not know, Maggie. The way she described it, it sounded bad. But you know me. You know I would never do something like that." She bit her lip. "I want to believe you. But why would Aunt Linda make it up? That is what I am trying to figure out. Did she say anything else to you? Anything that might explain why she went to Mom and Dad?" Emily hesitated. "She said she was worried about you. She said you seemed stressed, and that you kept bringing up money whenever you talked to her. That is not true. I barely talked to her. The only time I saw her recently was at Thanksgiving, and we had a 5-minute conversation." Emily frowned. "She made it sound like you had been calling her a lot." "I have not called her in months. Emily, someone is lying here, and it is not me." She looked conflicted. "I do not know what to think anymore." I leaned forward. "Do you trust me?" She met my eyes. "I want to, but you do not." She did not answer. That silence told me everything I needed to know. I left her apartment feeling more alone than ever. My family had turned against me based on lies, and no one was willing to give me the benefit of the doubt. I decided to dig deeper. If Aunt Linda was lying, there had to be a reason. I started thinking about her relationship with my parents. She was my father's older sister. She had always been involved in family matters, sometimes too involved. She had opinions about everything, and she was not shy about sharing them. Then I remembered something. Years ago, there had been a falling out between Aunt Linda and my father. I had been young at the time, maybe 12 or 13. I did not know the details, but I remembered my mother saying something about money and trust. They had reconciled eventually, but maybe there was still unresolved tension. I called my cousin Brian, Aunt Linda's son. We had been close as kids, but had drifted apart over the years. He answered on the second ring. "Margaret, wow, I have not heard from you in forever. I know. I am sorry. I need to ask you something. It is about your mom." He paused. "Okay, what is it? Has she said anything to you?" "About me recently. About me and my dad." He hesitated. "She mentioned something about a conversation you two had. She seemed upset about it. Upset how... She said you were asking questions that made her uncomfortable. About your dad's money. Brian, that is not what happened. She brought it up. I just listened. Now my whole family thinks I am trying to steal from them. He was quiet for a moment. Look, Margaret, I love my mom, but she has a way of seeing things that are not always there. She gets paranoid sometimes, especially about money. Why? He sighed. Because she has had problems with it in the past. She made some bad investments years ago and lost a lot. Ever since then, she has been hyper-aware of anything related to finances. If she thought you were asking about money, she probably panicked and assumed the worst. So she lied to my parents because she was paranoid. I do not think she meant to lie. I think she genuinely believes her version of events. But yeah, she probably exaggerated what you said. I felt a small sense of relief. At least now I understood where this had come from. But it did not change the fact that my family believed her over me. What should I do, Brian? He thought for a moment. Talk to your dad. Tell him what I just told you. He knows my mom has issues with money. Maybe that will help him see things differently. I thanked him and hung up. I decided to wait until after Christmas to approach my father again. Maybe by then, things would have cooled down enough for him to listen. But as I sat alone in my apartment that night, I could not shake the feeling that something else was going on. Something deeper than just Aunt Linda's paranoia. Because when I replayed the dinner in my mind, I realized something. Daniel had been too prepared. He had known exactly what to say. He had been waiting for the right moment to bring it up, almost as if he had planned it. And that made me wonder, was Aunt Linda the only one spreading lies about me? Or was someone else involved? The days after Christmas were the longest of my life. I stayed in my apartment, barely eating, barely sleeping. I kept replaying every conversation, every look, every word spoken at that dinner table. The more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that this was not just about Aunt Linda's paranoia. Someone had orchestrated this. Someone wanted me to look guilty. And the more I thought about it, the more Daniel's behavior stood out. He had been too calm, too prepared, too quick with his accusations. He had known exactly what Aunt Linda had said before anyone else brought it up. And the way he had delivered his words, it felt rehearsed, like he had been waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But why? What did Daniel have to gain by turning the family against me? I decided to do something I had never done before. I started looking into Daniel's life more closely. Not because I wanted to invade his privacy, but because I needed to understand if there was a reason he would want to discredit me. I began with social media. Daniel was not very active online, but Rachel posted frequently. I scrolled through her photos from the past few months. Most of them were typical family pictures. Daniel and Rachel at restaurants, their kids at school events. Nothing unusual, but then I noticed something. In several recent posts, Rachel had tagged locations that seemed expensive, high-end restaurants, luxury hotels, a weekend trip to a resort. These were not the kinds of places Daniel and Rachel usually went. They had always been careful with money, especially with 2 kids in private school. I kept scrolling. 3 months ago, Rachel had posted a photo of a new car, a brand new SUV, shiny and expensive. The caption read, "Finally upgraded. So grateful for new opportunities." New opportunities. What did that mean? I opened a new tab and searched for Daniel's company. He worked in finance, managing investment portfolios for a mid-sized firm. I found the company website and clicked through the staff page. Daniel's profile was still there, but when I clicked on recent news, I found something interesting. The company had been involved in a lawsuit 6 months ago. A client had accused them of mismanaging funds. The case had been settled out of court, and the details were not public, but the timing was suspicious. I called an old college friend who worked in finance. Her name was Claire, and she had always been good at finding information that was not easy to access. "Claire, I need a favor." "Margaret, it has been forever. What is going on? I need you to look into something for me." Discreetly, I gave her the name of Daniel's company and the details of the lawsuit. She promised to dig around and get back to me. 2 days later, she called. "Margaret, I found something. Your brother's company was in serious trouble. The lawsuit was bigger than the public records show. They were accused of losing over $2 million of client money through bad investments. The firm settled to avoid a scandal, but they had to pay a lot of money to make it go away. Was Daniel involved? His name was not directly mentioned in the filings, but he was one of the lead portfolio managers at the time. If the firm was held responsible, he would have been too, so he could have lost his job. Possibly, or worse, he could have been personally liable for some of the losses. I felt my heart sink. Claire, if he was in financial trouble, would he have needed money quickly? Absolutely. If he was facing legal fees or personal liability, he would have been desperate. I thanked her and hung up. Suddenly, everything made sense. Daniel needed money, and my father had money. But my father would never just hand over a large sum without a good reason, unless Daniel could convince him that someone else in the family was a threat. Someone like me. If Daniel could make me look like I was scheming to take money from Dad, then he could position himself as the responsible one, the trustworthy son who was protecting the family, and in doing so, he could secure his own access to my father's resources. I needed proof. I needed to confirm that Daniel was actually in financial trouble. I decided to take a risk. I drove to Rachel's workplace. She was a teacher at a private elementary school. I waited in the parking lot until the school day ended. When she came out, I approached her. "Rachel, can we talk?" She looked startled. "Margaret, what are you doing here? I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." She glanced around nervously. "This is not a good time. Please, just 5 minutes." She hesitated, then nodded. We walked to a bench near the playground. She sat down, her hands folded tightly in her lap. "Rachel, is Daniel in financial trouble?" Her face went pale. "What are you talking about? I know about the lawsuit. I know his company was involved in something bad. And I know you two have been spending money you do. Not usually have." She looked away. "That is none of your business. It is my business when Daniel uses me as a scapegoat to cover up his own problems." She turned to me, her eyes filled with tears. "Margaret, you do not understand. We were in a terrible situation. Daniel was facing the possibility of losing everything. His job, his reputation, everything. We had no choice. So you let him throw me under the bus." She wiped her eyes. "It was not supposed to go this far. Daniel just wanted to make sure your father knew he could trust him. He did not mean to hurt you, but he did hurt me. He turned my entire family against me." Rachel stood up. "I am sorry, Margaret. I really am. But we were desperate. You do not know what it is like to be on the edge of losing everything. So, you sacrificed me to save yourselves." She did not answer. She just walked away, leaving me sitting there alone. I felt a mix of anger and sadness. My own brother had betrayed me to protect himself, and my family had believed him without question. I drove to my parents' house that evening. I did not call ahead. I just showed up and knocked on the door. My father answered. "Margaret, what are you doing here? I need to talk to you. Right now." He looked hesitant, but let me in. My mother was in the kitchen. She came out when she heard my voice. "Margaret, if you are here to argue again, I do not think this is the right time. I am not here to argue. I am here to tell you the truth. About Daniel." They both looked at me, confused. I told them everything. About the lawsuit. About Daniel's financial problems. About how he had used Aunt Linda's paranoia to make me look guilty so he could position himself as the trustworthy son. I spoke quickly, urgently, trying to get everything out before they could interrupt. When I finished, my father sat down heavily in his chair. "That is a serious accusation, Margaret." "I know, but it is true. Call Rachel if you do not believe me. She admitted it to me today." My mother looked shaken. Why would Daniel do something like that? Because he was desperate, and he thought he could get away with it. My father rubbed his face with his hands. "I need to talk to him." I nodded. "You should, but I want you to know that I have never lied to you. I have never tried to take anything from you, and I do not deserve to be treated like a criminal." My mother reached out and touched my hand. "We owe you an apology." I pulled my hand back. "An apology is not enough. You believed him over me without even asking. You let him destroy my relationship with this family." My father looked up at me. "Margaret, I am sorry. Truly. I should have listened to you." I felt tears welling up. "You should have trusted me. I am your daughter." I left before they could say anything else. I could not stay there any longer. I drove home, my hands shaking on the wheel. That night, I received a text from Daniel. "We need to talk." I did not respond. The next morning, he showed up at my apartment. I opened the door and saw him standing there, his face pale and tired. "Margaretty, please, let me explain." "There is nothing to explain. I know what you did." He stepped inside without waiting for permission. "I was in a bad situation. I made a mistake, but I never meant to hurt you. You turned the entire family against me. You made me look like a thief. How is that not meant to hurt me?" He sat down on my couch, his head in his hands. I was scared. I thought I was going to lose everything. My job, my house, my family. I did not know what else to do. "So you decided to ruin my life instead." He looked up at me. "I did not think it would go this far. I just wanted Dad to trust me. I did not think everyone would turn on you like that. But they did, and you let it happen." He stood up. "I am sorry, Margaret. I really am. I will tell them the truth. I will fix this. It is too late for that. Please, give me a chance to make it right." I opened the door. "Get out." He hesitated, then walked toward the door. He stopped in the doorway and turned back. "I never wanted to hurt you. You have to believe that." "I do not have to believe anything." He left. I closed the door and leaned against it, tears streaming down my face. Over the next few days, I heard from my parents. They had confronted Daniel. He had admitted everything. He had confessed to using Aunt Linda's words to make me look bad. He had admitted he was in financial trouble and had been hoping to secure a loan from my father. My father called me, "Margaret, I am so sorry. I should have believed you from the start." I sat in silence, listening. Daniel has agreed to pay back any money I lend him, and I have made it clear that his behavior was unacceptable. And what about me? You are my daughter. I love you, and I am deeply sorry for doubting you. I wanted to feel relieved. I wanted to feel vindicated, but all I felt was empty. I do not know if I can forgive you yet. I understand. Take all the time you need. I hung up. Emily called me the next day. "Maggie, I heard what happened. I am so sorry. I should have believed you." "You should have. I know. I was wrong. Can we talk?" "Not yet." She did not push. She just said she would be there whenever I was ready. Christmas had torn my family apart, and even though the truth had finally come out, I did not know if we could ever go back to the way things were. But at least now, they knew I had been telling the truth all along. 2 weeks passed after Daniel's confession. 2 weeks of silence from most of my family. My father had called twice, leaving voicemails asking me to come over so we could talk properly. My mother had sent text messages saying she missed me and wanted to make things right. Emily had reached out 3 times, each message more apologetic than the last, but I did not respond to any of them. I needed space. I needed time to process everything that had happened. The betrayal was not just about the accusations. It was about how quickly they had believed the worst of me, how easily they had turned their backs, how little faith they had in the daughter and sister I had tried so hard to be. I threw myself into work. I stayed late at the office every night, volunteering for extra projects, anything to keep my mind occupied. My coworkers noticed I was different, quieter, more withdrawn, but no one asked questions, and I was grateful for that. One evening, as I was leaving the office, I ran into an old friend from college. Her name was Patricia. We had been close years ago, but had lost touch after graduation. She was walking past the building and recognized me. "Margaret, oh my goodness, is that you?" I forced a smile. "Patricia, wow, it has been years." She hugged me warmly. "What are you doing in this part of town?" "I work here. Have been for the past 5 years." "No way. We should catch up. Are you free for coffee right now?" I hesitated. Part of me wanted to say no, to go home and be alone like I had been for weeks. But another part of me was desperate for normal human connection, something that did not involve my family or their betrayal. Sure, I would like that. We walked to a small coffee shop nearby and sat by the window. Patricia ordered a latte, and I got tea. We spent the first few minutes catching up on surface-level things. Her job, my job, mutual friends we had lost contact with. Then she looked at me more carefully. "Margaret, are you okay? You seem like something is bothering you." I hesitated. I had not told anyone outside my family about what had happened at Christmas. But sitting there with Patricia, someone who had known me before all of this, I felt the words spilling out. I told her everything. The dinner, the accusations, Aunt Linda, Daniel's betrayal. The weeks of silence. She listened without interrupting, her expression growing more shocked as I continued. When I finished, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Margaret, that is horrible. I cannot believe your own brother would do that to you. Neither could I. But you know what the worst part is? They all believed him, without even questioning it." She nodded. "That is what hurts the most, is it not? Not just the lie, but the fact that they thought you were capable of it." "Exactly." We sat in silence for a moment. Then, Patricia spoke again. "Can I tell you something? About my own family?" "Of course." She took a sip of her coffee. 5 years ago, my sister accused me of stealing money from our mother. It was not true, but she convinced my entire family that I had taken thousands of dollars from Mom's account when she was sick. Everyone believed her. My aunts, my uncles, even my own mother started questioning me. It nearly destroyed me. I stared at her. What happened? It took almost a year, but eventually the truth came out. My sister had been the one stealing. She had been gambling and had racked up huge debts. She blamed me to cover her tracks. When my mother finally saw the bank statements and the timeline, she realized what had really happened. "Did your family apologize?" Patricia smiled sadly. "They did, but it was not the same after that. I forgave them eventually, but I never forgot how quickly they turned on me. And I learned something important." "What?" "That sometimes people believe what is convenient for them. My sister was always the favorite, the one who could do no wrong. So when she pointed the finger at me, it was easier for everyone to believe her than to question their perception of her. I felt a chill run through me. That is exactly what happened with Daniel. He has always been the golden child, the responsible one. So when he made me look bad, everyone just accepted it." Patricia nodded. "The question is, what are you going to do now?" "I do not know. Part of me wants to cut them all off and never look back, but another part of me wants my family back." "Do you think they have learned anything from this?" I thought about my father's voicemails, my mother's texts, Emily's apologies. I think they feel guilty, but I do not know if they truly understand what they did to me. Then maybe it is time to show them. "What do you mean?" Patricia leaned forward. "You have been avoiding them, right? Staying silent." "Yes. So they are probably assuming you will eventually forgive them, and everything will go back to normal. But what if you do not let them off that easily? What if you make them work for your forgiveness?" I had not thought about it that way. "How would I do that?" She smiled. "By telling them exactly how you feel. Not in anger, but in truth. Make them sit with the weight of what they did. Do not let them apologize and move on. Make them understand." I spent the next few days thinking about Patricia's words. She was right. I had been silent, but my silence had not communicated anything meaningful. If I wanted my family to truly understand what they had done, I needed to confront them properly. Not with accusations or anger, but with honesty. I decided to write a letter. I would say everything I needed to say, clearly and calmly, and I would give them time to absorb it before deciding whether I wanted to continue having a relationship with them. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and began typing. It took me 3 hours to write. I deleted sentences, rewrote paragraphs, tried to find the right words to express the depth of my hurt without sounding vindictive. When I finally finished, I read it over one last time. The letter explained everything. How I had felt when they accused me. How their lack of trust had broken something fundamental between us. How Daniel's betrayal had been painful, but their willingness to believe him had been worse. I wrote about the years I had spent trying to be a good daughter and sister, and how none of that had mattered. When it came down to it, I ended the letter with a question. "Do you understand what you did to me? Or are you just sorry you were wrong?" I printed 4 copies, one for my parents, one for Daniel, one for Emily, and one for Aunt Linda. The next day, I drove to my parents' house. It was mid-afternoon, and I knew my father would be home from work. I parked in the driveway and walked to the front door. I did not knock. I simply slid the envelope under the door, got back in my car, and drove away. I did the same at Emily's apartment and at Daniel's house. For Aunt Linda, I mailed the letter. Then I waited. 3 days later, my father called. I let it go to voicemail. He left a message. "Margaret, we got your letter. Your mother and I read it together. We need to talk. Please call me back." I did not call back. Emily texted me. Maggie, I read your letter. And I understand now. I am so sorry. Can we please talk? I did not respond. Daniel showed up at my apartment again. This time, I did not open the door. He knocked for 5 minutes, then slid a note under the door. I read the note after he left. Margaret, your letter was hard to read, but you are right. I do not think I fully understood how much I hurt you until I saw it written out like that. I do not expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know that I am going to spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I love you, and I am sorry. Daniel. I folded the note and put it in a drawer. A week later, my mother called. I answered this time. Hello? Margaret, thank you for picking up. Her voice was shaky, like she had been crying. I just wanted you to know that your father and I have talked a lot since we got your letter. We have been thinking about everything. You said, and you are right, we failed you. I did not say anything. We should have believed you from the start. We should have given you the benefit of the doubt, and we did not. We let Daniel manipulate us, and we let Aunt Linda's words cloud our judgment. But that is not an excuse. We are your parents. We should have protected you. I felt tears welling up, but I kept my voice steady. Do you understand why I have been avoiding you? Yes, you do not trust us anymore. It is more than that, Mom. I do not know if I can be part of this family anymore. Not after what happened. She was silent for a moment. What can we do to fix this? I do not know if you can. She started crying. Please, Margaret, tell us what we can do. We will do anything. I took a deep breath. I need time. And I need you to prove that you have actually learned from this. Not just say you are. Sorry, but show me that things will be different. How do we do that? I do not know yet, but I will let you know when I am ready to talk. She agreed, and we hung up. 2 more weeks passed. During that time, I received a surprising call from Aunt Linda. I almost did not answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Margaret, this is your Aunt Linda. I received your letter. Her voice was stiff, formal, and I want you to know that I did not intend to cause the trouble I caused. I genuinely believed I was doing the right thing by telling your parents about our conversation, but you twisted my words. She paused. I realize now that I may have misinterpreted what you said, and I am sorry for that. You may have misinterpreted. She sighed. All right, I did misinterpret. I let my own fears about money cloud my judgment, and I hurt you in the process. I am sorry. Margaret, it was not a perfect apology, but it was more than I had expected from her. Thank you for saying that. She hesitated. I hope you can forgive me someday. I do not know yet. We ended the call. By the end of the month, I started to feel a shift inside me. The anger that had consumed me for weeks was beginning to fade, not because I had forgiven everyone, but because I was tired of carrying the weight of their betrayal. Realized that holding on to the hurt was only hurting me more. I decided to meet with Emily first. She had been the most persistent in reaching out, and her apologies had felt the most genuine. We met at a park near her apartment. She was already there when I arrived, sitting on a bench, looking nervous. Maggie, thank you for coming. I sat down next to her. I read your texts. She nodded. I meant every word. I have been thinking about what I did, and I am ashamed. I should have stood up for you. I should have questioned Daniel, but I did not. I just went along with everyone else. Why? She looked down at her hands. Because it was easier. Because questioning him would have meant admitting that he might be lying. And I did not want to believe that. So I took the easy way out and let you take the blame. I appreciated her honesty. Do you understand why I have been so angry? Yes. You felt abandoned. By all of us. I nodded. I did feel abandoned. And I still do. In some ways. Emily reached out and took my hand. I cannot undo what I did. But I can promise you that I will never let it happen again. I will always question things. I will always stand up for you, even if it is uncomfortable. I looked at her. That is all I ever wanted, for someone to believe in me. She squeezed my hand. I believe in you now. I always should have. We sat there for a while, not saying much, but it felt like a beginning, a small step toward rebuilding what had been broken. As I drove home that evening, I realized something. Daniel had tried to destroy me to save himself, but in doing so, he had revealed who he truly was. And now, everyone knew. He had lost the trust of the family. He had lost his position as the golden child, and he would have to live with that for the rest of his life. I, on the other hand, had survived. I had stood my ground. I had demanded the truth. And slowly, piece by piece, I was reclaiming my place in the family, not as the one who was always trying to prove herself, but as the one who had been wronged and had fought back. The question now was whether I would let them back in, whether I could forgive them enough to move forward. I did not have the answer yet, but for the first time in weeks, I felt like I might be able to find it. 3 months had passed since Christmas. 3 months since my world had been turned upside down by accusations and betrayal. 3 months since I had discovered that the people I trusted most were capable of believing the worst about me without question. But in those 3 months, something unexpected had happened. I had found myself again. I had spent years trying to fit into my family's expectations, trying to be the daughter who did not cause trouble, the sister who stayed out of the way, the one who quietly supported everyone else while never asking for anything in return. But that version of myself had been built on the assumption that my family valued me, that they saw me, that they trusted me. Christmas had shattered that assumption, and in the wreckage, I had been forced to rebuild from the ground up. This time, I was building something different, something stronger. I had started seeing a therapist. Her name was Dr. Morrison, and she specialized in family dynamics and trauma. In our first session, I had broken down completely, telling her everything that had happened. She had listened without judgment, taking notes and occasionally nodding. When I finished, she had said something that stayed with me. "Margaret, what happened to you was not just about a misunderstanding. It was about a family system that was already broken. Daniel's lie simply exposed the cracks that were already there." "What do you mean?" She leaned forward. "Healthy families do not turn on each other so quickly. They do not believe accusations without evidence. They do not allow one person to manipulate the narrative so easily. The fact that this happened means there were already issues with trust, communication, and power dynamics in your family. Daniel just exploited those issues." Her words had been hard to hear, but they were true. My family had always had favorites. Daniel had always been the golden child. Emily had always been protected. And I had always been somewhere in between, trying to prove my worth. Over the following weeks, Dr. Morrison helped me understand that I did not need to prove anything to anyone, that my value was not determined by whether my family believed in me or not, that I deserved respect and trust, and if they could not give me that, then I had every right to set boundaries. Those boundaries had started small. I had stopped answering every call immediately. I had stopped feeling guilty for taking time for myself. I had stopped apologizing for being angry, and slowly, my family had started to understand. My father had been the first to truly change. A month after I had met with Emily, he had called and asked if he could come to my apartment. I had agreed, but only on the condition that we talk on my terms. He had arrived on a Saturday morning, carrying a small box. We sat in my living room, the air between us heavy with unspoken words. "Margaret, I have been doing a lot of thinking since Christmas, about the kind of father I have been, about the mistakes I have made." I waited for him to continue. "I realize now that I have always had blind spots when it comes to Daniel. He was my first son, and I put expectations on him that were not fair. But in doing that, I also gave him power he should not have had, power to manipulate situations, power to control narratives." He paused, his hands clasped together, and in giving him that power, I took power away from you and Emily. I made you feel like you had to compete for my attention, for my trust, and that was wrong. I felt a lump forming in my throat. I never wanted to compete, Dad. I just wanted you to see me. He looked up, his eyes red. "I know, and I am sorry that I did not. I am sorry that I believed Daniel so easily. I am sorry that I did not fight for you the way I should have." He reached into the box and pulled out a stack of papers. I have been going through old family photos, letters, things I had kept over the years, and I found these. He handed me the stack. They were letters I had written to him when I was younger, letters from summer camp, letters from college, letters thanking him for his support, telling him I loved him, sharing my dreams and hopes. I had forgotten about these. "I never forgot," he said quietly. "I kept every single one, because you have always been important to me, Margaret, even if I did not show it the way I should have." Tears streamed down my face as I read through the letters. I saw the girl I used to be, the one who believed her father would always be there for her, the one who thought family meant unconditional trust. He reached out and took my hand. I cannot undo what happened, but I can promise you that I will never doubt you again, and I will spend the rest of my life proving to you that you matter, that you have always mattered. I did not know what to say. Part of me wanted to pull my hand away, to tell him it was too late, but another part of me, the part that still loved him despite everything, wanted to believe him. I need time, Dad. I need to see that things are really different. He nodded. I understand. Take all the time you need. I will be here. He left shortly after, leaving the box of letters with me. I spent the rest of the day reading through them, remembering who I used to be and realizing that I did not have to lose that girl completely. I could carry her with me while still being the stronger, wiser version of myself I had become. 2 weeks later, I agreed to have dinner with my parents. Just the three of us. No Daniel, no Emily, just us. We met at a small restaurant, the kind of place we used to go to. When I was growing up, my mother had aged in the past few months. There were new lines around her eyes, and her hair seemed grayer. We ordered food and made small talk at first. The weather, work, safe topics. But eventually, my mother set down her fork and looked at me. Margaret, I need to say something. I waited. I have spent my whole life trying to keep this family together, trying to make sure everyone was happy. But in doing that, I ignored problems that needed to be addressed. I ignored the favoritism. I ignored the imbalances. And I let Daniel get away with things he should not have. She paused, her voice breaking. But the biggest mistake I made was not protecting you. You are my daughter, and I should have believed you. I should have stood up for you, and I did not. I will regret that for the rest of my life. I reached across the table and took her hand. I forgive you, Mom. She started crying, and my father put his arm around her. We sat there for a moment, the three of us, finally being honest with each other. After that dinner, things slowly started to improve. I began seeing my parents more regularly. We had conversations that were deeper than they had ever been before. They asked me about my life, my work, my feelings, and they actually listened. Emily and I had rebuilt our relationship as well. She had proven herself by standing up to Daniel on multiple occasions. When he tried to minimize what he had done, she called him out. When he tried to paint himself as the victim, she reminded him of the truth. One evening, Emily and I were having coffee at her apartment when she told me something surprising. Maggie, I think I finally understand why you were so angry. What do you mean? She set down her cup. I always thought family meant we had to forgive each other no matter what, that we had to stick together even when someone did something wrong. But that is not true, is it? No, it is not. Family should mean trust, safety, support, and if someone breaks that, they do not just get to be forgiven automatically. They have to earn it back. I smiled. Exactly. She looked at me seriously. You taught me that, Maggie, by standing your ground, by refusing to just accept their apologies and move on. You showed me that I have the right to demand better from the people who are supposed to love me. I felt proud of her, proud of the person she was becoming. As for Daniel, things were more complicated. He had tried to reach out several times, but I had not been ready to talk to him. My therapist had helped me understand that I did not owe him forgiveness just because he was my brother, that I could take as much time as I needed, or choose not to forgive him at all. But 4 months after Christmas, Daniel showed up at my office. My assistant called to tell me he was in the lobby, asking to see me. I thought about sending him away, but something told me it was time to face him. I went down to the lobby. He was standing by the window, looking older than I remembered. There were dark circles under his eyes, and his suit looked rumpled. Margaret, thank you for seeing me. I did not come down here to make this easy for you, Daniel. Say what you need to say. He nodded. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I need you to know that I have been getting help. I have been seeing a therapist, working through why I did what I did. And he looked down. I was scared, terrified, actually. I thought I was going to lose everything. My job, my reputation, my family. And instead of facing it, I tried to deflect. I tried to make it about you so no one would look too closely at me. So you sacrificed me to save yourself. Yes, and I will never forgive myself for that. We stood there in silence for a moment. Daniel, I have spent months trying to understand why you did it, and I think I finally do. But understanding does not mean I am ready to forgive. He nodded, tears in his eyes. I know. I just wanted you to know that I am working on becoming a better person, and that I hope someday you might be able to trust me again. Maybe someday, but not today. He accepted that. He turned to leave, then stopped. For what it is worth, you were always stronger than me, Margaret. I just did not want to admit it. He walked out, leaving me standing there. That evening, I called Patricia and told her about the encounter. She listened and then said something that resonated with me. You know what the best part about all of this is? Margaret, what? You won. Not because Daniel apologized, not because your family finally believed you, but because you refused to be diminished. You stood your ground, and you made them see who you really are. She was right. I had won, not in the way I had imagined, but in a way that mattered more. I had reclaimed my sense of self. I had set boundaries. I had demanded respect, and I had gotten it. 6 months after Christmas, my family gathered again. This time, it was for my father's birthday. I had agreed to come, but only because I felt ready. I arrived at the house and was greeted by my mother. The atmosphere was different than it had been at Christmas. Lighter, more genuine. Emily hugged me tightly. I am so glad you came. Me too. Daniel was there with Rachel and their kids. When he saw me, he nodded respectfully but kept his distance. He did not try to force a conversation or pretend everything was fine, and I appreciated that. During dinner, my father stood up and raised his glass. I want to make a toast. This past year has been difficult for our family. We have faced challenges that tested us in ways we never expected, but we have also learned important lessons about trust, honesty, and the importance of standing up for what is right. He looked directly at me. Margaret, I want to thank you for not giving up on us, even when we gave you every reason to, for teaching us what it means to have integrity, and for reminding us that family is not just about blood. It is about respect. Everyone raised their glasses. I felt tears in my eyes, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of relief, of healing. After dinner, I stood on the back porch, looking out at the yard. My father joined me. Are you okay? I nodded. I am. I really am. He smiled. Good, because you deserve to be. We stood there together in comfortable silence. For the first time in months, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The truth had not come easily. It had required pain, confrontation, and the willingness to walk away if necessary. But it had come. And in its wake, I had found something I did not expect. I had found myself stronger, wiser, and unafraid to demand the respect I deserved. Christmas had torn my family apart, but in rebuilding, we had created something better, something real, and I knew that no matter what challenges came in the future, I would never again allow myself to be diminished. I was Margaret Hayes, and I was enough.